Welcome to Anhata on Fire. All right, and technical issues commence. All right, I shouldn't be getting any feedback. Let me know if I'm getting any feedback. This is my first live ever on my own, so my apologies for the inevitable glitches and mess ups. My name is Anhata on Fire. I was born in a yoga cult. My mom got out of the yoga cult when I was 2, and we were inducted into a family cult when I was 7. She remarried a covert narcissist, and I was raised in a family cult, isolated from the rest of my family, abused and tortured, the usual, and escaped when I graduated high school and fled to college. Met my delightful spouse, re-met him. We knew each other in high school, re-met in college, started dating. He's awesome. Not the source of my narcissistic abuse. That would be my stepdad, and that would be some narcissistic behaviors of my mother. Fast forward, we are currently full-time RVers, so this is my space. It's my bedroom. My studio is my bedroom because we're in an RV, and I don't have a spare den or, she shed that I can just hop out to. The thing that has me talking about narcissistic abuse, however, is not necessarily my stepdad, not necessarily my mom. It's the fact that in 2008, we adopted a brother and a sister from foster care and experienced narcissistic abuse from them for the next 10 years. And when the narcissistic abuse is coming from your children, there are unique challenges that I still don't know how to address. There are no, this is how you parent a narcissistic child guidebooks that I know of. And there certainly weren't in, 2018. So the post-narcissistic stress disorder was already in existence from my childhood. And the abusive behavior of our children really did a complete and total nervous breakdown, ego death, ground us down into nothing by the time they had left the house. They had worn us down to the point where we didn't know who we were anymore. We didn't know what we liked, what we didn't like. We didn't know how to go forwards, couldn't go back. And we had to literally just therapy our way through it in marriage counseling and come out the other end. We're still coming out the other end. Our adopted daughter left in 2019. Our adopted son left in 2020. And the past 4 years have been recovering from that. So when I was talking to friends and family about the situation, I generally did not tell them what was actually happening. It was too horrific. I didn't want to burden them, frankly. But little I did share, some responses were beautiful and brilliant, compassionate. They listened, they validated, they supported. Some didn't understand what I was talking about and were very invalidating, very damaging, and caused immense pain. being told that this, all they need is love. All they need is love. Yeah, don't ever tell that to somebody who's describing an intensely painful experience as a parent or someone else caretaking. If they've described behavior where they're being assaulted verbally, if they're being emotionally blackmailed, if they're being lied to and gaslit, and your response is, all they need is love, you've just harmed your friend. I'm sorry, but you did. Because A, that's what your friend has been doing all along, and it hasn't helped. So you've just invalidated their past and their future. So I wanted to do a show that talked about what you can do, how you can help. If it's happened to you, there's resources. And the fact that your life is in shambles and has been completely torched, I get it. That happened to us. My husband and I are still rediscovering who we are. I joke about the Rolling Stones song 19th Nervous Breakdown. Like, that's how many I've had. I'm on my 19th nervous breakdown. I joke because I don't know, I stopped counting. After the third one, I just stopped counting. Because when you're parenting children who will eventually become diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or with bipolar disorder, or with borderline personality disorder, or with histrionic personality disorder. These are all disorders that the two children had. They had multiple disorders. When those children have been lying to you, manipulating you, guilting you, trying to doing all the things that tiny little narcissists will do to try to get you to meet their needs. And nothing that the parenting books and the therapists and the counselors are telling you to do work. Nothing is working. If it works for a few weeks, and then they just go back to how things were. Because we don't have how to parent narcissistic kids, how to parent children with reactive attachment disorder that will develop into borderline personality disorder. How to parent kids who have so much anxiety and depression and other emotional disturbances that by the time they're 12, you look at them and you say they're going to be bipolar. There are no instruction books for how to raise these children. My husband and I were on our own. The therapists that we worked with to develop strategies to try to help our kids wouldn't back us when those therapies were called into question, when our children would report us to CPS. So, yeah, you can have therapists and you can work out safety plans with them. Don't expect them to back you up when CPS knocks on your door and asks you why you're doing XYZ, which is plainly abusing your child. And you're trying to explain to them that's your safety plan. You work that out with your therapist in conjunction with a trained child psychologist and therapist. You have worked out a safety plan. And Child Protective Services is notified by the school because your child found out in middle school. Lots of very interesting, fun things happen when you report your parents as child abusers. You don't have to go to class for the rest of the day. You hang out in the office and you play games on the computer, and people come and ask you all kinds of questions, and you get to make up the best sob stories ever. It's awesome. And then you get to go home and watch the chaos and just eat popcorn in the corner. Yeah, this was a form of entertainment for her. She did this to us many times. Lost count, honestly, of how many times she went to school and reported us for nothing to the CPS, and CPS showed up on our door with a clipboard asking us to explain ourselves. And when the therapists wouldn't back us up, there's nothing we could do except change therapists. Because honestly, therapists don't know any more than I did. No one does. No one knows how to raise these kids, and if they do, they're not talking about it. So before I start talking about being born in a yoga cult and the effect on me, being raised in a family cult where the entire family is predicated on the need to keep the narcissist who's makes everyone walk on eggshells happy and comfortable. The entire point of the family cult is to ensure the comfort and tranquility of the narcissist at the expense of everyone else in the family. Before I can discuss that, I have to discuss the having raised narcissistic and a personality disordered, abusive children. And before I can do that, I have to explain the daughter. They were birth siblings, a boy and a girl. The daughter made me the maternal enemy and went on a personal campaign to destroy me and my relationship with my husband. And should she come across my videos, because this is my real first name, and she'd recognize me, I don't look that different. She comes across my videos, she's going to go rage monster. And she's going to try to slander, and she's going to try to get me canceled. Anyone who comes on a show with me will have to know that's a possibility that could happen to them. They could end up with a stalker they don't even know. My adopted daughter. So if you want to do collaborations with me, I'd love it. Contact me. My email is on my About page, and I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. So if you want to come on my show as a guest and talk about narcissistic abuse, cult abuse, surviving, living with PTSD and PNSD, if you want to come and talk about any of these, if you want to come on and talk about poetry, songs, I'm up for anything. I have ADHD. I'm interested in everything, and very little bores me. So I'm happy to have anyone on, but you need to know it comes with a risk. I come with baggage. And if you come on my show and one or both of my adopted children decide that I need to be canceled and everyone associated with me needs to either be separated from me or be punished as part of a collective punishment, yeah, you got to know that going in with me. If you already have so many stalkers, what would another one matter? Awesome. If you'd rather not deal with it, I can't blame you. But that is the 15-minute intro, basically, of where I am coming from today. So Whenever I tell people I've, dealing with narcissistic abuse survivor stress disorder, I generally don't tell them who the person was. People assume, oh, probably a boss, a parent, a romantic partner. These are the people that have control over you that you wouldn't be able to just walk away from, right? That's what people kind of assume are the people perpetuating narcissistic abuse. I don't tell people that it was my children because then I'd have to explain so much because people don't understand narcissism in children. And I don't feel like it. I don't feel like I can do it justice in the moment. And I learned a long time ago that I cannot combine advocating for myself with educating someone about what I'm trying to advocate for myself at the same time. It just either I don't have the requisite tools to do it successfully, or it just doesn't work for me. Probably I haven't developed a framework to discuss it. Like you develop a framework around discussing therapy things, you learn the lingo. You learn about, victimhood. You learn about gaslighting. You learn about resiliency. There's all these things that you learn when you're getting therapy, when you're learning how to heal, and that have become part of the common lexicon. People know what you're talking about now when you say narcissist. 20 years ago, people thought you were talking about someone who just loved themselves. Narcissist is just someone who stares at their image all the time and just loves themselves. Well, no, that's what the name came from. The Greek guy Narcissus, that's where it came from, but that's not what a narcissist is. And we have a better understanding of that now, right? But I submit we don't have a good understanding of what narcissistic children look like, even though there have to be narcissistic children in order for there to be narcissistic adults, because that's where they come from. And we don't have anything that says what personality disorders look like in children, even though they're there because that's where they come from. They come from trauma in childhood. Yeah. When I tell people that I had a child that I could tell at the age of 12 was going to be bipolar and have borderline personality disorder, I would be told that's impossible. You can't diagnose children at that young of age. Which is funny because that's exactly what happens. Within 5 years, she had both of those diagnoses. But I was told 5 years previously that she couldn't have. So I basically realized no one was going to believe me. So I just don't. That's very, very difficult to heal from narcissistic abuse when you can't explain because people won't believe you. And that's what people experience when they're talking about grown adults. Like when people say the stuff that their spouse or their boss or their parents do, they don't believe them. Like, your mom did what? Your mom what? Your boss what? Imagine the pushback when you try to tell them that a child is doing this to you. Well, okay, you're the adult. You set the boundaries, you set the expectations, and then you set the natural consequences. What's the problem? The problem is children with a narcissistic personality disorder, boundaries don't work. Setting expectations doesn't work. Having natural consequences or unnatural consequences, either one doesn't work. Talk therapy doesn't work. Like, nothing that would be a traditional avenue of addressing a problem in a child works for personality disorders, narcissistic, and all the other ones. Those kids are working off of a different playbook. They have different phobias. They have different hang-ups. They have skewed thinking. They don't make logical A, B, C rationalizations. They make very illogical conclusions. They will take data and come to a conclusion that makes your head hurt. Like, that's no. And it's because the abuse they encountered to bend them into this shape is so profound, it affects the brain and how the brain works. And unless people understand that narcissists aren't deliberately malignant, in most cases, narcissists don't even know they're narcissists. In my experience, virtually every narcissist I've encountered is an unaware narcissist. I can only think of 2 narcissists offhand that are aware: Matthew Cox and H.D. Tudor. I can't think of any personally that I know. So the thing with narcissists is they think they're great people. They think they're awesome. They think they're going to do great things in life, even though they refuse to do any work to get it. There's no reasoning. They will not accept truths that they don't want to accept. Facts bounce off them. You can't get a narcissist into therapy unless you have something over them to force them into it, like court ordered for behavior management, or your spouse said you go to therapy or we go to divorce, or they've been forced into it, and good luck trying to get any real advancement with a narcissist in therapy. They're never going to admit they are one. They're going to be manipulating the therapist the entire time. And you're basically going to have to just work within their framework. You're not going to turn them into a narcissist. The most you'll ever do is to get them to be in an aware state. And so that they're aware of their narcissism. And that's if they want to change. And why would they? Their world is working great for them. They have no reason to change. So, narcissistic personality disorder looks different according to the narcissist. There's 2 main types. There's the grandiose narcissist. That's the kind that people are most familiar with. They're the con men, the people who run around Las Vegas throwing around $10,000 at the craps tables. They're the live large, go into the entertainment industry so that everyone can experience their brilliance and their talent. There's also, and the other side is the covert narcissist. They tend to not throw themselves out there and say, "Look at me." They tend to be the backup singer, or they'll be the backup player in the band. They won't be the lead singer in the band. They'll be the backup player, or they'll be the piano player or the drum player. They won't necessarily be the lead singer. The covert narcissist uses emotion and coercive control to manipulate people, not lies. My stepdad was a covert narcissist, and he never lied. My son and daughter were covert narcissists, and they lied constantly. So just because you know someone is a covert narcissist or the grandiose narcissist doesn't mean you know how they're going to behave. It totally depends. Yeah, my stepdad would throw huge narcissistic rages in order to control us. Our kids didn't. They tried in the beginning. The first couple of years, there were rages that completely shattered our nerves and ruined our life as a family. But those eventually stopped because it didn't work for them. They didn't get their needs met when they did that. We would stop everything, wait until they calmed down, and then reintroduce the thing that started the problem and work towards a solution. So their rages never got them anywhere. So they stopped doing it. They'll only do what works for them. So after the first couple of years, we didn't get the narcissistic rages anymore from the children. So just because you've experienced narcissistic abuse doesn't mean you understand anyone else's narcissistic abuse, and vice versa. Because every single narcissist has their own their own way that they've been twisted and bent into this into this different shape. Another paradigm shift from understanding what narcissism is as opposed to what people think it is. The people, okay, I forgot where I was going to go with that. So that's my ADHD there. I've got a ADHD and dyslexia, which means I have basically a memory disorder, and sometimes things can just fall through the hole in my brain and just disappear. So most of my information is online, either from BetterHelp.com or other sources. So my main resource today is from BetterHelp, and it's about helping someone who has post-narcissistic stress disorder. So after someone has left a relationship with the narcissist, they will have PNSD, post-narcissist stress disorder. It's a variant of post-traumatic stress disorder. You or your friend will be very familiar with helplessness, with rage, with intense anxiety, and with varying levels and degrees of depression. The narcissist has spent the entirety of the relationship trying to change you or your loved one into what they needed. And in order to survive the relationship, you or your loved one will have had to bury, cut off, or wind up into pretzels themselves in order to be tolerable for the narcissist, in order just to exist in their space without being constantly ridiculed and abused into conformity with what they want and need. It's a type of ego death, in my experience. So, what you need, or what your loved one will need, is to be listened to without judgment. They will have been, or you will have been criticized or treated as inferior in the relationship. The last thing you or they need is more judgment. So you can find someone, or you can be someone that will give them a chance to speak and listen without giving your opinion. Even if you struggle to understand why they didn't take care of themselves better, why they didn't stick up for themselves, why did they tolerate being treated like that for so long? Why didn't they leave the relationship earlier? You, if it's happened to you, you're struggling to understand that your own self, much less explain that to someone who you're trying to talk to about it. So if you're helping a friend and you don't understand why they didn't stick up for themselves better, or leave the relationship earlier, or just, enforce some damn boundaries, it's because they weren't allowed to. It wasn't a possibility. So if you don't understand, keep listening. Ask very basic, non-judgmental questions and keep listening. Ask clarifying questions, keep listening. Validate their feelings. They will feel every feeling under the sun. They will feel sad. They will feel angry. They will feel bitter. They will feel cheated. They will feel manipulated. They will feel isolated. They will feel alone. They will feel depressed, anxious. They will have extremely high cortisol loads, and they will have been living in fight, flight, or freeze for years. So validate their feelings. The relationship was emotionally destroying. They may have to relearn healthy ways to express emotions. Validate their emotions, that their emotions make sense given the situation. Whatever you do, don't intimate that they're overreacting or they need to get over it or move on, because it takes years to recover from narcissistic abuse if it's been from a family member or someone close. Unconditional love and support. If you don't know what unconditional love and support is, I invite you to start looking it up, because if you don't have it to give your friends, you're going to need to learn what it is and acquire it. And you can. If you don't understand unconditional love, it's because it wasn't shown to you. You had performative love. You were loved if you followed the rules. You were loved if you did what they said. You were loved if you got the grades, if you did the sports, if you towed the line, if you did it, if when they said jump, you said how high. You got the love. But not always. That wasn't your fault. But that is also not the way to live. And learning how to love without expecting a quid pro quo which I had to do my own self. It's hard, it's humiliating, but it's worth it. I went into my relationship with my husband thinking I understood unconditional love. I was told by my mother what it was and that she was dispensing it freely upon me. So I thought I knew what it was. And when I expressed love towards my spouse in the way it was expressed to me, he found it to be conditional. And that was a bitter pill for me to swallow. Was that I thought I knew what love was, but no, I didn't. That's very complicated. You have to deal with your relationship with your parents. You have to deal with your relationship with yourself. You have to deal with you have to manage all of your expectations differently. It's hard work. And people who don't have the bandwidth, it's not safe to try to do deep shadow work on yourself if you're in survival mode. Most people have to leave the narcissist before they can start to heal, because while they're still being abused, nothing is going to do anything except for just do triage. So I forgot where I was kind of getting off point, but there we are with that. So providing unconditional love and support to yourself and to your loved ones who've experienced the post-narcissistic stress disorder. If they're isolated from their loved ones, they will have to build an entirely new support structure. It's a new support system, and they're doing that whilst feeling the betrayal of the narcissistic abuse, the lack of trust. They have serious trust issues now. They don't trust their own judgment. They don't trust anyone else. Why would anyone else help me? I'm a loser. I'm a fake. I'm a phony. I'm a shitty parent. Why would anyone want to help me? Why would anyone want to be my support? People who've been ground down into nervous breakdowns from narcissistic abuse don't trust themselves or anyone else. And now they have to rebuild a support system. How? How do we do that? How are we supposed to do that? What you need are people who can hold your hand and say, I'll be your support system. You can call me or text anytime. Then you or your loved one has to trust that and then do the reaching out, which means if you have said that you are available to provide support to your friend while they heal, you have to do it. You can't renege. If you have a friend with trust issues, with abandonment issues, who has been profoundly abused by a loved one, and you've said you'll be a support, you have to be that support. You have to. Because if they text you and you don't reply, and they email you and you don't email back, and they comment on your Facebook pages and you just like the comment and you never reply. If they reach out and say, hey, you want to go get some coffee, and you never reply. All of those are things that happened to me when I reached out. After the kids left and I was trying to rebuild myself, I reached out to my previous support system. They weren't available. It's not their fault. my point about that is you can be available to provide support as they heal. When you're doing the work, when you're in a healthy place, or when you're in a healthy enough place. If you're in your own personal meltdown and you don't think you can reply to their text, don't say you will. Just be honest. Tell them, I want to provide support to you. I don't know how much I can. You know, me personally, with my ADHD and dyslexia, on top of that, I have fibromyalgia. I don't have the stamina to, to do a lot of physical things. Like I can't go on a long hike with you through the woods to heal. I can't. I can't. I can't promise. To always reply, but I can promise to do what I can. Be honest with yourself and your friends with what level of support you can offer. Because when I was 13, I had a lot of thoughts of self-termination. 11, 12, 13. I'm very lucky that I'm still here. Those were very difficult years, and I almost terminated myself several times. I had letters written out and hidden under my mattress so that when I finally did it, at least my family would know why. This happened several times over several years. When I confided into someone about this, they said, call me anytime, day or night, anytime, please, please, stay, we need you, call me anytime. This was an adult. I believed her, so I did. There were answering machines back then. I left a voice message on the answering machine. Hi, this is Anhata. You said to call you anytime. So this is that time. My phone number is. Please call me back. She never did. I waited 2 days, and I called her again. Left the same message. And she never called me back. And I never confided in anyone ever again. So provide unconditional love and support, but be very honest about what that kind of support can be from you. And don't promise things that you can't deliver. And if you discover you can't deliver them, then you need to be honest and explain it. Don't just ghost. I've been ghosted so much. But I don't trust people anymore. It's one of my trust issues. I don't trust people to not ghost me. So Another thing that you'll need to understand with your friend is that they may not understand your unconditional love and support because they don't understand unconditional love in the first place. If they were raised in a narcissistic family system, if they and then they ended up in another narcissistic family system as an adult, they're not going to understand unconditional love and support. So you may be trying to provide them unconditional love and support, and they're not getting it. Like, you're not getting, like, I did this for you. Why can't you do this for me? I helped you when you were blank. Why can't you help me when I'm blank? And it's because they cannot accept unconditional love and support until they themselves understand it and accept it for them, and will accept you giving them unconditional love and support. Case in point, guy was talking in an interview. It was Diary of a CEO YouTube channel. Guy was talking, I'll probably remember his name in a minute, said he was going to be an instrument of love and joy in the universe. He had this amazing, like, joie de vivre, and he was going to treat everyone with just complete unconditional love, everyone he meets. And he's going to live love. And then he realizes no one can take it. No one can accept this love he's offering. They're suspicious. Why are you so friendly? What is this? You're holding out your hand and offering me something with nothing in return? I don't get it. What are you talking about? So I encourage you to be patient with your abuse survivor friends. If you do provide unconditional love and support, and they don't see it, it might be because that they don't recognize it, and they just need to make that leg of their healing journey. They have yet to finish that leg. Doesn't matter. You can still be there providing unconditional love and support anyway, and just don't take it personal. Whatever you do, as someone who's undergone narcissistic abuse, it wasn't you. It feels personal. It felt really damn personal, but it wasn't you. It was them. If you have a friend healing from narcissistic abuse, they're, ditto. So one of the things that they're living with, that I was living with, overwhelming feelings of stress. The stress is overwhelming. You're constantly walking on eggshells to keep the narcissists from exploding or from directing any aggression or nastiness towards you. You are constantly trying to operate in their framework because that's the only framework they will operate in. You have no choice. You have to operate in their framework. They will not step outside their framework into yours. And the main fun, I remember what I was trying to remember earlier about paradigm shifts. The main paradigm shift I want to see now, that people more understand that it's not that narcissists loves themselves. Narcissists actually, deep down, are a black hole of inadequacy. They don't think that they're all that in a bag of chips. They're trying to hide that fact from everybody and pretend that they are all that in a bag of chips. Deep down, they know they're an empty black hole and nothing will ever fill them. And they're spending their entire life covering that up. That's just their reality. And nothing will change that. and it's not their fault. People don't decide to become a narcissist and just be an asshole for the rest of their lives. People are made into narcissists. And genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Genetically, you are predisposed to narcissism or sociopathy or psychopathy or whatever. We all have and everyone's different. Every family line is different. Like my family line breaks along arthritis and high blood pressure and diabetes. My husband's family breaks along rheumatoid arthritis, the cardiovascular pulmonary disease. It's like different families have different lineages and different ways their constitutions can and will break. It's just whatever genetics you've got, that's that loads the gun. And then if you're raised in an environment where you're abused, that will pull the trigger. It will either turn you into a narcissist or a sociopath or a psychopath, or maybe just give you some narcissist personality traits, anything in between. But what I want people to come away with from narcissism now that you understand narcissism isn't people who just love themselves and just gaze at themselves all day in the mirror like, oh, you're just so pretty. That's not a narcissist. A narcissist is someone who thinks they're evil and are hiding it from the world, or they think that they're nothing and are desperately covering it up. So if you're dealing with a narcissist, they're not deliberately narcing on you. That is simply the personality. That's why it's called a personality disorder. And they can choose who to be narcy nasty to and who to be narcy nice to. So different people will get different treatments. Their family and friends will get the nice narcy treatment. Your family and friends will get the not nice narcy treatment. Both are narcy treatments. They're just acting nice in this situation because it gets them what they want. And they're not acting nice in this situation because they don't need to get what they want. But I don't want to put a value judgment on this. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's simply what is. They're not deliberately being an asshole. That's just who they are, and they can't help it. That's the paradigm shift I went through with a narcissist, is realizing they're not just messing with me. They do narcy across the board with everyone. I'm just getting the majority of the abuse. That's why it looks different to me than it does to their teachers. So the overwhelming feelings of stress. The stress is crippling and it will break your health. The stress of having to negotiate the minefield of the narcissist personality when anything can set them off. It didn't set them off yesterday. It won't set them off tomorrow, but it set them off today. You are constantly, checking and adjusting and checking and adjusting and checking and adjusting to the narcissist in order to make them comfortable, because you have no choice. They will not change, so you have to. That causes incredible stress, and they're operating out of fear because the abuse causes so much pain, and they're being so twisted and turned up to believe that this is their fault and that they're inviting this abuse, that they're operating out of intense stress and fear. The how to deal with crippling stress, you have to scale back. Something has to give. You have to, you've been spinning the plates and juggling the balls simultaneously, juggling, spin, 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 juggle, juggle, spin, 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 juggle, juggle, spin, spin, spin. In order for you to get out of the stress, you have to put down the plates and the balls. You have to let things go. You have to start getting really good sleep. You have to get regular movement so that your blood circulates, your lungs refresh, your mind can get cleared, and your body can start to downregulate. You've got to start activating your body's natural relaxation responses without drugs or alcohol. Drugs or alcohol are a good crutch. Well, not a good crutch. They're a crutch. Pot is really, really, really good for stress as long as you don't have addiction issues. Some people do have addiction issues to pot. It's an emotional addiction, not a physical addiction. Having a small glass of wine now and then, nothing wrong with it. Having a joint, so that you can sleep at night, nothing wrong with it. But if you become dependent on alcohol or drugs in order to get your relaxation response, even if it's just nicotine, if you're dependent on it to get your body's natural relaxation responses, that's not going to be adequate. Because you can't drink or drug in every situation. You need a lot of different relaxation strategies: meditation, deep breathing, journaling, walking, going to the gym. I'm not saying don't drink or smoke. I'm saying don't rely on it, because even if you're not physically addicted to it, you can emotionally become addicted to it and require it to maintain. If you do, it's okay. You've made it this far. We can walk you through with the rest. Dealing with addiction on top of everything else sucks. I already had addictions going in, so I'm at least aware that it's a potential problem, and that I know I can get help and it will work. I had food addiction. That was my response to the incredible stress of my childhood, was to eat my feelings. I still remained height weight proportionate all through my childhood, just because, my metabolism and genetics. When I hit 20, I started gaining weight, and that started me into because I wasn't, your metabolism changes, your activity levels change. I was in college doing a lot of studying, researching, and writing. I was very sedentary. Riding my bike to and from school was the only exercise I really got. And I started to gain weight, and that started me on a shame spiral where I just kept eating. Fun fact, shaming people for being fat just Just makes them fatter. Doesn't make them skinnier. So I'd already recognized and started to deal with my food addiction when I was in the midst of raising our two adopted kids and my bio child. We have 3 children, a bio child and 2 adopted children. Oh. So I'm at least familiar with addiction, what it looks like, what it feels like, and I know I can beat it. That may feel overwhelming to someone out there. I get it. But you know what? We can hold each other's hands through to the other side. You may be in a dark pit, a dark hole, and people keep calling down at you. Come on, pick yourself up. Come on, jump on out. It's really nice out here. Come on, dig yourself out of the hole. Well, I've been in the hole. And you don't get yourself out. I required professional help. I required marriage counseling. I required my own personal counseling. It required hours of watching Dr. Ramini on YouTube about narcissists, hours of watching anti-cult programming on YouTube to understand and bring to my therapists the insights. It took journaling, really deep, intense journaling, where I'm ripping off scabs and allowing 40-year-old wounds to drain. It's hard. I end up in tears at the end. But it's better on the other side, because I've expressed my rage and pain. I've validated it. I've told myself that makes sense given the situation. You have every right to have felt that way for being treated like that. And when I'm on the other side, it feels better. Yeah. I bought a frame drum, and I drum meditation. Because of my ADHD, I can't just cross my legs, do a mudra, and just hit the meditative state. It doesn't happen. With my ADHD and dyslexia, I forget what I'm doing halfway through it. And I'm on my phone doing a Google search on some random thing that just popped into my head. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be meditating. So meditation is going to look different for everybody. Journaling is going to look different for everybody. You know, your deep breathing and your relaxation exercises are going to look different for everybody. But the good news is the resources, there's resources out here now. Not comprehensive, but there are resources. Therapy, medication, or both. Medication doesn't have to be an SSRI or some form of, Prozac or something. For me, with my ADHD, medication can be nicotine. Nicotine treats ADHD. The reason why people smoke is because if they have ADHD, tobacco treats it. There's also a ton of other stuff in the cigarettes that makes you sick and kills you. So it's not a great tool. So nicotine gum or nicotine patches work better. But medication doesn't have to be something scary. It can be a nicotine patch. It just depends on you and what you need. But if you have experienced abuse of any kind, I will always recommend therapy. It can be, uh, and it needs to be a professional. And it can look like whatever you need it to look like. You can get therapy from friends as well. That's great. Having having a lad's holiday, having a girl's night out, perfectly valid therapy. You have to also have professional. They will be able to tell you whether what you're thinking is true or whether that's the result of the narcissistic abuse. You need a professional who is educated in your area so that you know whether what you think is happening is really happening. Because one of the things narcissistic abuse does you is turn you on your head until you don't know up from down, left from right, top from bottom, in from out. You literally have no sense of direction anymore. And I want to thank you very much for joining me. And I've been in the deep hole. I know how to get out. If you need help, throw down a comment. We'll see what we can do. If you need feedback, throw down a comment. If you want to give feedback, throw down a comment. Like, comment, subscribe, share. You do all the clicky ringing bell thingies. And I can throw down a ladder. I can throw down a rope. I can hold out a hand. And I can help you out. Even if it's just online, even if it's just here, I'm rooting for you. I'm pulling for you. Just like the Possum Lodge in the Red Green Show. We're all in this together, and I'm pulling for you. Love you.